Welcome back to the Winded Podcast. Today on the show, I have Ray Danielle, who is a little bit of everything. Her content kind of covers a lot of different avenues. She blends hockey, baking, style, and everyday life all in one place. Ray, how are you doing today?
I'm so great. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you on. Especially, you've been very supportive of the Winded Podcast. We've kind of talked back and forth even before having you on. You've been very supportive of the post, so very grateful to have you here today. And I'm really excited to get to know you and your content a little bit more.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. I've actually really enjoyed getting to it's funny, a lot of the people you've had on are people that I have followed for a while. So getting to feel like I know them a little bit better outside of just their snippets has been really enjoyable as a fan.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of the whole point that I kind of stumbled into is that I started talking to content creators or people in sports that, um, they put out content and even just like you put out content and you know what they do, but you don't necessarily know kind of the behind the scenes stuff or how
Mhm.
they feel about it. So yeah, I appreciate that and excited to kind of show behind the curtain for you.
Yeah.
Um, but let's get right into it, and as you can see, I am decked out in my Dallas gear.
I
Normally
noticed.
I normally cannot wear this on with guests without getting shamed and ridiculed. I do have it's kinda cut off, but I do have the Winded logo with the star in it as well as the spoked W. But I'm excited to be able to wear some Dallas gear and not be made fun of.
Yeah, no, I mean we will suffer through the pain of being Cowboys fans together. It's been
Yeah,
a it's been a rough couple of years, like,
it
but we
is not.
can't you can't help but support it though.
Yes, it's not easy, and my one time in Dallas was, 2 years ago, went to AT&T Stadium, which was bucket list kinda dream thing. My wife and I had a great weekend in Dallas, but unfortunately, it was, when Dak was hurt, got to see Jalen Hurts and the Eagles just whoop Cooper Rush and the Cowboys, but still a moment, was special being in that stadium, and I can't believe that it's as old as it is, and it looks like it was built yesterday.
Yeah, and what's funny is, they're actually in the middle of doing, like, renovations and stuff on it to update it, which for people who see it for the first time and they're like, what could you possibly be updating? It's like a museum in here."
Maybe they'll put some curtains in, for the sun, because that's the game that I was at, was the CeeDee Lamb, like, missing the ball because the sun was directly in his eyes. I know it happens a lot, but that's the one that got, like, national attention, like, "Jerry, you have this billion-dollar stadium, can you just put a $10 curtain up in the window?" And just
Jump on Amazon and find one real quick, and I think it wasn't national news until it actually affected us as a home team.
well, yeah, because
Because when it
usually
was
it's the other way
everybody else,
around.
we're like, "That's not really our problem." Like,
Yeah. But, you have the best wide receiver in the game who can't catch the ball because he can't see it. It's not a good look. So, hopefully in those renovations, they're gonna put up something to
you would
protect
think.
at least the end zone that they're going towards?
Right. No, you would hope so. I mean, and all the other things they're doing, it feels like a $10 Amazon curtain shouldn't be too much to ask for.
Yes. So, I have lived the Dallas Cowboys experience. I am a Bruins fan, but I've always kinda liked the Stars. What is the atmosphere like at a Dallas Stars game? Because I know how Dallas goes crazy for the Cowboys. What's it like for the Stars?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of discourse over the years about Dallas not being a hockey town. Everybody loves to say it. I would disagree. I actually think, I've been to sports events in pretty much every avenue through Dallas. There is nothing quite like being at the American Airlines Center when it's a packed house. It is loud and the fans are rowdy. There's just such a sense of, like, community in it because everybody's so dialed in, and frankly, the Stars have been our our best team for a couple years
Yeah.
now, slightly more consistently. I mean, obviously, we had the Rangers that won the World Series a few years back, but then they, like, followed that by not making the playoffs. So, like, the consistency with the Stars, I think, has really grown the fan base in the last 5 to 7 years. So it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely reflected in the fact that you used to be able to go to the games like day of, buy a ticket for $20 and go sit up in the nosebleeds. You can't do that anymore, which I think is a good indication of the fact that the game is growing here a lot.
Yeah, the ticket prices are really the gauge of, like, how much it means to a city, especially not being able to get them day of, and, when you do, it's you gotta pay for it. Um, but yeah, no, the Dallas Stars have really sneaky been a very good team for the last couple of years, and, the playoffs had some disappointments. I think they could have gone
Yeah.
further in each of the last couple years. Um but yeah, that series with Colorado was unreal, and I was like, "Why is this in the first round? Well,
Right.
this could be the Western Conference Finals, and we're losing one of these teams right off the bat." So that's I that was my I've always hated the new playoff seeding,
Yeah.
and I heard Bettman say the other day it's not going anywhere, which is a shame, but that right there is like, why are these teams playing in the first round? They have no business play I mean, second round maybe, but that could have been a Western Conference Finals, and we saw it
For
in the
sure.
first round.
Well, I mean, and even you look at this year, because last year, yes, that was an incredible matchup, but this year you've even got Minnesota in the mix where you're talking about 3 of the top 5 teams in the NHL, and 2 of them will be gone before the Western Conference Final.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's just a crazy statement to make. And I get it in the sense of, like, I think they're like, "Well, yeah, but we don't want, like, the 4-0 series early in the matchups that you sometimes saw with the 1-8 format," but it just takes away such a big, like, part of the competition moving forward because you get these huge rivalry games, especially, like, first right off the bat, and then you get so many injuries because there's so much on the line that it's like
yeah.
it feels like a Stanley Cup final game in round 1.
Yeah, but they say you don't want the 4-0 sweep, but then what you ends up happening is you have a team like the Carolina Hurricanes make it to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 out of 5 years and never even win a game. They've 0-12 in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's like, why would you want that instead? I would much rather see a deserved 1 seed wipe out an 8 seed that doesn't belong if that's what's gonna happen versus seeing
Right.
a team sneak to the end because they just played in a division that wasn't any good.
Right. Well, and especially, like, I don't know, I think it's funny to me because I feel like if you had the big matchups that stretch all the way to 7 games in rounds 2, 3, 4, like, those are making the NHL more money
Yeah,
anyways. So it
yeah,
seems like it wouldn't hurt to have those longer stretched out series later.
yeah. No, I would much rather watch a 7-game series in the Stanley Cup Finals than in the first
Yeah.
round,
No,
but
100%.
that's just me. So like I said
I actually
before.
don't think it's just you.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not just me. It's everyone but Gary Bettman, apparently.
Yes, apparently.
But yeah, so like I said before, you cover a lot of different avenues, hockey being one of them, but you're also very into baking, and I know, like we said before, your fans have been clamoring for more because you've been so busy with the hockey and Olympics and, your work and everything, but how did you get into baking and putting out content with baking?
Um, so the baking itself started when I was really little. My cousins and I and like our extended family would all go to my grandmother's house for, the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. And frankly, there were 5 or 6 of us kids that were of age to be able to help with things. And so to keep us, I think, occupied, everybody got a job. And my job starting at like 5 years old was, Ray, come over here and help with dessert. And then we did pies, like, that was my nana's favorite recipe was these chocolate cream pies, and I think by the time I was about 8, I was making them on my own, and then from there, it was like, "Well, if I could make a pie, I could make" every little kid loves chocolate chip cookies, every little kid loves brownies, and so from there, the baking side of it kind of took off, and it was something that my grandmother and I could bond over, which was neat, and then my parents loved it because it meant they didn't have to make dessert, but
Yeah,
I would do it,
yep,
like, and then as far as the content side of things, I really didn't start doing any sort of, like, official content creation in any capacity until probably a year to a year and a half ago. And I had my individual, like, my own TikTok, and then I said, "I'm gonna start a baking blog because my friends all know me as, like, the more stressed I get, the more baked goods there are in my
okay.
apartment because I can kind of use it as a way to shut my brain off because baking is very precise and very scientific, so, like, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And so I originally started a little blog that was called Confessions of a Stress Baker, and technically it still exists. I have not used it in a while, but I had social media to kind of pair with it. And in my head, that was the thing that was gonna take off, and then there was a day that I jumped onto my own personal account and started talking about hockey, and those were the videos that started to take off, and then trying to manage both of them was entirely too much, so then it just kind of I squished them all into my main account because that was the one that seemed to be progressing more.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, so it kind of grew from there. And now I stress bake when there's a lot going on at work. There's a lot going on within stuff outside of work, just in our personal lives, because goodness knows everybody's always got something going on. And I like bake for friends' birthdays and for random activities. And then, I mentioned I on the late night games, that is kind of my go-to because I would really love to tuck myself into bed at about 9:30. So when the puck drops at 9:15,
It's not
to
good.
have something that's gonna keep me occupied, otherwise I will fall asleep on my couch. So those are nights that tends to be like, "Here, we'll just bake while the game is on."
Some people just put on an extra cup of coffee, they drink an energy drink, you just go to the stove and get to
Yeah.
baking.
Bread, cupcakes, stuff that I can share. Because that's the other thing is, like, when you start baking this often, you've gotta give it to other people. There's
Yeah.
such an obscene amount of baked goods in my house at any given moment that that's just become, like, my coworkers love it. I'm like, "Hey, I've got banana bread. I've got sourdough. I've got whatever." I'm like, "Please take this. Get
I
this
feel like
away from me."
that's a good workplace when there's somebody who's just always baking something and bringing it in. You mentioned kind of the science of baking and the preciseness of it. I like to cook, I enjoy cooking. Baking is something that I can't do because it's too precise, and even feel like I follow a recipe and I'm like, it's just 1 degree off in the oven and the whole thing just falls apart.
Yeah.
Which makes
It
me appreciate when, one, it's tough to make it make sense, like, to do it all, but then for it to come out looking good and taste right and everything, it truly is a different level than just regular cooking.
Yeah, and I do and I love to cook as well, like, if, for anybody that's on my Instagram side of things, I don't post my cooking as much on TikTok, but, like, I love posting, like, the stuff that I make for dinner, and then I feel bad because people are like, "Oh my gosh, can I get a recipe?" And I'm like, "Girl, I have no idea what I did to get that meal." Whereas the baking, obviously, there is a recipe somewhere, whether it's one that I found years ago that I've kind of morphed into something else. Like there is a base recipe that I can kind of share for that stuff, which is why I don't do much of my cooking on like TikTok side of things because if people started asking me, "Oh, what is that?" What I found in my pantry. Like
Exactly.
it's what was there tonight. Like there's not really a rhyme or reason to it. But the baking, yeah, it's very precise. I would be lying if I told you that stress baking has not caused a breakdown or 2, where I'm like, "I need something to calm me down." And then, like, you try to bake bagels and they come out like little hockey pucks, and, like, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I end up, like, on my kitchen floor crying. But usually it's because things are bad enough that, like, I needed to cry, so I end up feeling better afterwards, so I still call it a win.
Yeah, I feel like that, and that's something I've thought of before because stress baking or doing stuff like that is, it's not like a unique thing, like, plenty of people do it, and for me, I'm like, that's, like, kinda risky because you're already in a state where it's not gonna take it's like when you get your belt loop, like, on the doorknob and it just ruins your whole day. It's like,
Mhm.
you're putting a lot of faith that you're gonna get that right, and if you don't, it's gonna, like you said, the straw that breaks the camel's back, so
Yeah, it's definitely there are a few recipes where if I'm really in a precarious spot mentally, like, there are a couple of things that I know I can do right because I have done them for so many years that those are the days that we're like, "Okay, we're gonna stay safe with the banana bread recipe," that, like, I don't even need to look at the recipe anymore because I know how my oven cooks this, and I know exactly how this is gonna go, and then there are days where I'm like, "I just need something to occupy my time and something that's gonna kind of take me out of the world for a moment," and that's when I'll try something new when it's a little less like, I may not burst into tears if that one doesn't work out, and that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You knew what you were getting into with that one.
Yeah.
Another thing when it comes to cooking and baking content that I think is, like, underappreciated is those things, those activities on their own can be a challenge in doing it, but to do it and make it aesthetic and I would love to do, like, grilling or cooking or whatever content, but it's like my mind can only handle I can only stay on the task of what I'm cooking, and if I added a camera and trying to get, like, shots in and,
Uh,
especially when it's, like, progress stuff, you can if you miss a step and it's like, "Oh, well, I just missed this whole thing." So, how
mhm.
stressful or is it, or are you just kinda used to kind of bringing the camera along through your baking kinda journey?
Yeah, the content side of things was not easy to learn. The number of times that like you said, if you miss a step, you kind of have to either, like, insert a clip of you talking about it because unless you've started all the way over, there is no, like, "Oh, let me just go grab a different one and put it in
Yeah,
place." Like, there
yeah.
is no fixing it at that point unless you start over. Um So I figured out fairly quickly that when it comes to, like, baking content, I usually have multiple tripods and, like, I have an actual camera that I use for video, and then I have my phone, and usually I have both of them set up because I work in one of 2 spaces for the most part, and then I don't have to worry about moving things back and forth, and that was such a game changer because trying to go back and forth the number of times I burned things or, like, skipped a step or you just like, end up not posting because you're like, "Oh, that was not focused at all on what I was trying to do, and I can't use that clip even a little bit." So I'll post videos of, like, the end product and the recipe and the caption, and we'll call it a day.
That's good enough. It's very ambitious to kind of come along for the whole ride of the whole thing,
Yeah,
and
that would definitely be part of why there's not 2 separate accounts anymore, is because that was a lot trying to keep up with it, and so I was like, "Well, if I do all of these in one, then I don't feel like I have to post a food video, like, every day." Because that was I mean, a one-hour baking project very quickly jumped to 2 hours
yeah,
for
that's what I
video
was gonna
like that.
say. I feel like when I cook, it usually takes, every dish and utensil in my kitchen, and it takes at least an hour. If I added a camera into that, it would be the only thing I had time for that day. So I give you credit for being able to do that.
Yeah, there's definitely there's also a component of that as to why you see less baking content, like, during the hockey season especially, because I am at so many of the home games, like, there's just not I go straight from work to the game, and so sometimes I'm not home until, like, 11 o'clock. I'm like, "Well, I'm not trying to post anything about food today. Like,
Yeah,
no, this is not the time."
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, another thing, and one of the reasons why I really enjoyed your account, over the last, couple months, I would say, is your Olympic and Paralympic coverage. It was like I said, I commented on one of your videos that you were my go-to when it came to the Paralympic hockey. I was, locked in on knowing what was going on, and you were kind of my go-to person for that. There was a ton of Olympic coverage out there, but
mhm.
you kind of really brought attention to the Paralympics, especially the men's hockey team, and which was just an incredible run. Uh, has the Paralympics been something you've always been passionate about, or did you kind of jump on board this year?
I would say content-wise, I jumped on board this year, but I grew up in, like, a super sports heavy, very sports dominant family. Like, that was the vast majority of what we did my entire life. So, the Olympics has always been something that we sat as a family for those 2 weeks every couple of years, and that was all we did. And so, I would say it was probably within the last 3 or 4 Paralympics that we started to pay more attention, and part of that's just social media becoming more prevalent, like, getting to know some of the athletes, whether it was while they were competing or, like, if you followed them during the Olympics and Paralympics, then, like, keeping up with them after the fact. And I would say it was actually summer Paralympics where I really jumped in because I used to run track and cross country. And so I always like watching that stuff on both events and getting to follow people like Tara and Hunter Woodhall. Like, they just make it so much fun. And then you start diving into like one person, and then they have this community of friends that also compete. And so it just kind of like domino effect from there. But, I think the whole world, like, doubles down on the Olympics when it's time. Like, everybody tunes into that regardless of where it's happening just because it's neat, and it's, like, it's
Mhm.
cool to see athletes from all over, and you get to see a little bit more of, like, the culture side of things, and sometimes they're your favorite athletes from major sports leagues that you already follow, but on a non-American team, and so then you're learning more from that side of things that, like, the Paralympics, it's I don't remember how I explained this to somebody. It's all the things that you love about the Olympics, but, like, let me do it with even more challenges. And
Yeah.
as somebody who loves sports, like, what more could you possibly ask for than to watch people do it in an even more difficult format?
Yeah. No, I talked about, a couple weeks ago on the podcast, I was talking about how it almost seems fake how when the Olympics come around and they do these kind of pieces and interviews and bios on athletes, and you're like, "I can't believe that they were able to overcome all of this and get to here." And that's for the regular Olympics, and then
Yeah.
I shouldn't say regular, but that's for the Olympics, and then the Paralympics come around, and it's like, you add a whole 'nother layer and literal, physical challenges to it, and it's like, how could you not be supportive of that? And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you opened my eyes to it, and will definitely be more on my radar in the future when it comes to the summer and the winter. Because it is a shame that it's like the hype of the Olympics ends, and then this is right after, and people kind of, like, almost don't realize that, like, there is a continuation of the athletics, and there's a lot of great stories and events and stuff that come, you know, right then, right after.
Right. Well, and I think there's so many people that every year when you talk about, like, I mean, at least on my page, like, I get so much Olympics and Paralympics feed, and people talk about, like, their emotional support Olympics because you just end up, like, emotional about people you've never interacted with and you've never heard of until, like, the day before yesterday, and now you're sitting on your couch, like, crying because they got to participate. Like, they may not have even won, but just watching them do this thing that they've been working toward their whole life, and so it makes you emotional, and then, like you said, the Olympics end, and there's usually, like, 1 week in between, 1 to 2 weeks in between, and it's, like, just enough time for so many people to kind of, like, check out. And, like, maybe their sports are coming back from being on break or, whatever it is that keeps them from, like, tuning in. And they're like, "Oh, well, I don't know those athletes." I'm like, "Okay, well, you didn't know some of these Olympic athletes until 2 weeks ago. So, like, there's no reason you can't get just as emotionally tied in to hearing some of these stories." And I would dare say, like, with the Paralympics, there's the physical challenges of all of it, but then, like, you also get to hear the stories with, like, the skiers and the runners where they have, like, their guide runners. And some of these people that are ridiculously talented athletes that are now still competing on a world stage, but doing it, like, in a form of helping somebody else,
Mhm.
and, like, that's also really neat, and then you see some of them find success in their own fields, like, outside of the Paralympics, so you're kind of getting, like, double the interaction with all of it, which is I just think it's so neat.
It really is, and, I'm looking forward to continuing to follow it, and I know that I'll be able to rely on you for the coverage on that.
Yeah.
What would you say, and there's, some obvious answers, but what would you say it was kind of like your highlight of the Olympic and Paralympic season this year?
Oh, oh, man. I mean, obviously, as a hockey fan, getting to see the US sweep all 3,
Yeah.
which has never been done before, was phenomenal.
All against Canada too, which is just
All against
crazy.
Canada, which is like, that's I don't know that we'll ever see it again to see one team sweep all of it. I mean, if we can, that would be great, but, like, getting to see it once is just such a unique experience, and then, I think on a non-hockey front, um, the I'm gonna blank on her name, which is gonna drive me crazy, but there was the woman from Mexico that was the long distance, like, skier
Mhm.
that was the first ever woman to participate in, like, the ski cross stuff because she got injured before the last Paralympics, and watching, like, the biggest names in that sport meet her at the finish line, I was a wreck. Like, I am already somebody who is very empathetic, especially in the sports universe. Like, watching people accomplish dreams just makes me so emotional. But watching her cross that line and see, like, Jessie Diggins and, like, all of these huge names, just like they are emotional. She's coming across, she's emotional. I was crying on my couch for, like, 15 minutes. It was like, I was not well.
What did you bake that night?
I actually don't think I baked a single thing during the Olympics because it was with it being the time zone that it was
Yeah.
in, I felt like I woke up in the morning and I would, like, turn my phone on and turn on Peacock and, like, prop my phone up while I was getting ready for work, and then it was thrown on my side monitor while I was at my desk, and then you come home and it was like, "Well, you couldn't have watched everything during the day, so let me turn on prime time." So I feel like I was just constantly tuned in. The only time that I baked was when I hosted the watch party for the gold medal game for the men's
Mhm.
hockey, and we did pancakes and puck drop, and so I had, like, a quiche and pancakes and, fruit and yogurt and, like, breakfast foods, bacon, whatever, because that game started at 7 o'clock in the morning in Dallas, and so I was up at, like, 5 AM and had 15 people, I think, at my apartment ready to go and watch that game, and then devoured, like, an obscene amount of food. Like
Your reaction video was great to the gold medal win was one of my
yeah.
favorites.
That was what's so crazy, that one ended up on the news,
Really?
which is insane. One of the producers for CBS Evening News reached out to me, I think on TikTok, and was like, "Oh my gosh, we love this video. Would we could we include it in, like, a compilation?" And so we got to be on national news
Love it.
of us dressed to the nines in USA gear, like, jumping up and down on the couch at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. Like
That was my I think my favorite part about it was that, like, it was, like, clearly you were at home, but, like, you had, like there was a ton of people there, everybody
yeah.
was engaged, like, you know, and I know in plenty of cities across the country, there were bars that opened early, Boston opened a bunch of stuff, and it's like, it's one thing to be out and about and in a huge environment to, like, gather that many people to, like, go to someone's house and watch and have everyone that invested was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was funny because it was actually that same group of friends, we had an Olympic themed, like, party the Friday before, so we were like, "Oh, perfect, we've already got all the
You get
goods,
the
like, we
outfits,
are
yeah.
set for this for this event." Like
One thing I do love about and we've gone over it, but, about your content is that you do kinda go and do you do the hockey, the baking, obviously the Olympics was great, you do a lot of style stuff, um, and I talked to, Alessandra Lucia the other day, and she talked about how, she's been told by agencies and business and stuff that pick a lane, pick a niche, and really lean into that, and I would totally disagree. As a consumer, when you're just getting fed the same thing over and over, it's almost like it's much easier to just kinda scroll past, but it's like,
Mhm.
when it's you cover a lot of different things, it's like, I'm more likely to stop on her page and be like, "Oh, what's she up to today?" Or is
Yeah.
What's Ray doing today?" Like, I think that that is so much better to for me to consume, and also from the creator, it's more enjoyable to put out what you feel like doing that day versus just, I guess I'm just the baking girl. I have to just do this to you're like a dancing monkey. I have to do this to like entertain my people.
Yeah, I think, she mentioned that, and I was sitting in my car, I was, like, driving to work listening to that one, and I was like, "I've heard that too." Think that her take on it was actually really, really intelligent, which is like, if you do that, it becomes more of like a business venture where it's like, okay, yes, if you're in it solely to reap the benefits of like doing this one thing, then maybe that's what works for you. As much as I love hockey, as much as I love baking, like that having to talk about just one of them all the time, I feel like I would eventually grow to like, I don't want to say resent it, but like sometimes you just don't want to talk about that. And so, I have so many things that I feel like I balance in my day-to-day life that like just because somebody comes to my page to either talk about the Dallas Stars or like, I love random hockey lore and that kind of stuff. Oh, my light just died. It's fine. Like, but like doing some of these other things that like you can come to my page for that, but that's not the only thing I want to talk about all the time to an extent that I don't want that to become my whole life because it's not realistically my whole life. Now, is it a vast majority of it? Yes, I do spend a lot of time at hockey games. I do spend a lot of times, I feel like dragging friends that maybe haven't loved hockey or like don't. they're not as die hard into it as I am, but, like, I love bringing friends into it and getting to teach the game because sharing something that I love with other people that I love is the best case scenario. And then with baking, like, I don't always want to bake, and frankly, with baking content, like, you have to be doing something. Like, I follow some people that are cooking and baking content, and I watch their stuff religiously, and as I'm watching it, the thought is rolling through my head of, like, I could never be this person solely because I think I would end up hating baking if I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just got home from work and I have to make a video about baking something today." No, that would take any sense of joy out of it. I've had friends that I cater parties for and, like, do events for, and I've had some of them approach me and go, "Hey, like, would you ever pursue this full time?" No. No, I would not, because as soon as I'm doing it for money and it is my full-time job, like, I'm I no longer get a choice in what I wanna make, when I wanna make it, how I wanna do it, because now it's not for me, it's for other people.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a very important distinction for me to keep because I do have, like, I love my content stuff, and if it goes somewhere that is more full-time, that would be super neat. But, like, right now, I have a very separate big girl job. Like, I work in commercial construction. This is not, like, this is not my whole life by any means, and so getting to kind of pull aspects of that into my content and kinda keep people on their toes, like, some of my work events are insane. We've had, like, pig wrestling and, like, random crazy stuff that we've done that people are like, "I'm confused by your job." Me too.
Yeah.
Like, so getting the opportunity to share all of it, I think keeps it interesting.
It's what keeps it fun for sure, and I am in the really early stages of doing this podcast. I also have a full-time job, I sell cars,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't really want somebody to come and tell me like, "Oh, you should be talking to this person or you should be doing this," and,
Mhm.
because then it's like, it would be great if the podcast became something that was like a job, but at the same time, it's like, I'm enjoying the fun aspects of it right now, and I
Mhm.
think that's the same goes for you with, you know, doing the hockey content, doing the baking, just doing it for fun, and if it turns into something else, but, like, as long as you keep the fun involved, then that's the perfect scenario.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, like, and it's introduced some really cool opportunities, like, I won't even lie, like, the social media side of it, this is the fastest growing industry for a reason, and it's because it does have so many cool creative opportunities and, like, doors that open for people, but, I I don't think I look at it as much as a job right now, and, like,
Mhm.
maybe there will be a day that that changes, but right now I like having the freedom to turn it into whatever I want it to be,
Yep.
which is great.
That's the
'Cause as
best
much as
thing.
I love hockey, like, I like other sports too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I that's my main thing. It's the what I spend the most time talking about. It's what I know the best, but by no stretch of the imagination is it, like, the only thing I'm interested in.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, it's great to be, well-rounded and really just do what you feel and not just what you feel like you have to do to appease others. And
right.
you mentioned bringing friends to the game for, for their first time. I'm super excited. I'm bringing my wife to her first Bruins game on Tuesday, so very
So
excited to,
exciting.
yeah, hockey is not I mean, she's, like, athletic and all that, but, like, sports, she could care less when it comes to she's like, "Why do you spend so much time watching?" So I'm excited to bring her, to that and see that for the first time. She brought me to Dallas to see the Cowboys, and that was, super special. But yeah, it is cool to share stuff like that with, people that it wouldn't necessarily come up on their radar, be like on their to-do list, but a
Right.
lot of times they come away from it and they're like, "Oh, I love this," or "I would love to, pursue this a little more." So, I'm hoping she's like, "Hockey's awesome, like, let's watch more of this."
That's a best case scenario. Yeah, I would say I have several friends that, like, maybe 3 years ago, I was like, "Let's go to a hockey game," and they're like, "Do what?" And now I have there's 2 girlfriends in particular where, like, we have a group chat that is just, like, Dallas Stars stuff on a regular basis, and, like, it pops off during games and everything else, and I'm like, "Man, this is just what a cool thing to build with friends that you've already had." Like, you've already had that relationship, but now there's just, like, a brand new aspect to it, so
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah, when I first was dating my wife, it was the a couple months in, it was the 2019 Bruins Stanley Cup run, and I just remembered it was the early enough stages where she would go along and she'd ride along, and she'd come to the bar with me to watch the game, and she's like, "Is it always like this?" And
And you're like,
she's probably grateful that the Bruins have
"Yeah."
not gone on a deep run since then, but yeah, I'm like, I couldn't imagine trying to bring her to every single playoff game out at a bar right now.
My gosh. Me either. Frankly, I have a hard enough time, like, we go I think I've only missed 3 home games this season between,
Yeesh.
like, working the games and then going. Just sometimes it's nice to not go for work and be able to just enjoy it because 'cause you're still kind of on when you're,
Yeah.
like, taking customers to a game. There's still a
Mhm.
certain level of, like, professionalism and, like, you have to be, that whole social battery conversation, whereas, like, if I'm going to the game with my brother or, like, by myself, I love going to a hockey game by myself and just getting to, like, sit and relax and do it how I wanna do it, when I wanna do it, and call it a day.
Yeah. I've never done hockey by myself. I've gone to Fenway for the Red Sox by myself before, and I was like, "This is awesome." It's like, things like that and, like, going to the movies by yourself, people, like, always kinda look down on, and it's like, why wouldn't you wanna do that? Like, if you are
Yeah.
the only one who's available to do it and you wanna go, why not?
But it's one of the things that I have pushed on, I think pushed on sounds strong, that I have preached to a lot of people in my life is, like, learning to like yourself enough to hang out and, like, do the things you enjoy by yourself and not feel like you have to have somebody with you. Like, I am the queen of doing things alone. Hockey games, movies, lunch dates. I take myself on, like, a solo date once a month. But I even, like, I've traveled, like, out of the country by myself. I think it is
Wow.
fabulous, and I love it. So, it is a huge part of everything that I enjoy, and part of that just comes from the fact that so much of everything in my life is, like, built around being around other people. So having the ability to kind of step away and do things just for me is nice.
I'm sure there's an element of peace to that.
Yeah.
Um, I usually ask this when I'm talking to people outside of Boston. Actually, I'll even ask people from Boston, but who do you think is the next Dallas team to win a championship? There's an obvious answer that's kinda standing out there, but it's like the state of the
Yeah.
franchise is one is kind of above the rest, but that might makes it fun.
Yeah, I would say I think the Stars have all the components to be the next team to do it. That being said, I mean, the Rangers won the World Series a few years back and then had a lot of turnover, which is not uncommon right after a championship, right? Like you bring a bunch of people in for a single season, and then you kind of have to like figure out with cap space what you can still do. And so I'm hoping that we have another really strong year out of them. But I would say the Stars have been like teetering that edge. They have been so close for so many years that like this feels like a good year, especially if we can get some of our healthy bodies back right towards the end of the season and into the playoffs. Like I think they have all the pieces to do it. I hope it's this year. I would love for it to be this year to get to see it again at a time when I can actually kind of remember it. As opposed to, you mean they won it in '99? I was like
99, yeah.
6.
Yeah,
So I mean, like, I remember it to some extent. We have a slice of the ice on the mantle at my parents' house from, like,
great.
the ice of the winning game and, like, all of the stuff. So, like, I vaguely remember it, but it would be nice to have, like, an adult corehood, like, core memory
Mhm.
of that.
Was that ice from the crease that Brett Hull was in, or was it
Well, it's all just water now, so I don't know if we can
is there any blue in
clarify
it?
where it came from.
Yeah, I was 10 when that game, and I remember staying up and watching it and was just I mean, I remember, like, all the overhead shots that were on the cover of all the magazines,
Oh,
but
yes. Well, I
I,
mean, and then we even got to play into it with the '99 jerseys this year with him making the announcement standing 1 foot in the crease during the announcement of the jerseys.
wouldn't it wouldn't it just be fitting if this year the Stanley Cup is Buffalo and Dallas? Both teams could get
Somebody
there.
somebody asked me the other day who my dream matchup would be with the Stars, and I was like, somebody followed in. I think it may have actually been in the live last night that they wanted it to be the Stars and the Sabres, and I had a moment of like, I don't know if I want it to be
Yeah,
that because, like, that feels a little bit like tempting fate."
that's a little that could be karma that is very lying in the lying in the shadows waiting.
Like, oh, I don't know if they would be my first choice. Like, I love that for them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
however,
But yeah, that would be fitting, and it would of course, it'd be so Buffalo that they've been starving for a Bills championship, and then they just get a random Sabres out of nowhere.
yeah. My gosh. Well, especially because, like, I know everybody has talked about it this year with, like, the heated rivalry joke that came out about Buffalo, and then they, like, go on a tear, and you're like, if the hockey show that has garnered so much hype and, like, so many new fans is the thing that drives that team to a Stanley Cup Finals, like, what an indication of how, like, involved our community is with social media and TV these days.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, life imitating art.
like, man, it would be wild. I hope this is the year. I mean, it's gonna be tough as we come to the end of the season with I think a lot of it's gonna depend on who gets that 1 seed. And now we're real close, but I think that April 4th matchup with Colorado is gonna be very indicative of how things are gonna look heading into the playoffs. So,
Yes. Yeah, we will yeah, that'll be that I mean, that'll be, like, as far as regular season, that'll be playoff atmosphere. Is that in, Colorado, or is that in Dallas?
that one's here. So we played Colorado in Colorado at the very beginning of the season, and then we were here, like, a week and a half ago. We just beat them, like, a couple of days ago. And then that game is April 4th, so it's, like, as close to the end as we can get.
Yep. Ugh, that'll be a good one for sure.
Yeah.
Ray, this has been so much fun getting to know you and the kinda behind the scenes of your content. Why don't you tell people where they can follow you?
Yeah, I think all of my handles for TikTok and Instagram are it's Ray, RAEDW 11. Um, so I think that's all I've got right now content-wise.
Awesome.
That's enough. That's enough to keep me busy. Like,
Well, whether you like hockey, baking, style, there's something for everybody on Ray's page, so give her a follow. Ray, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.